Questions will be written on index cards, reviewed, and selected by the moderator. Questions will be asked of all candidates, and questions addressed to only one individual or those that contain personal attacks will be discarded. The moderator will make the final decision regarding all questions. Each candidate is given the opportunity to answer each question in 1 minute. When the minute is up, the timekeeper will ring a bell indicating the candidate must finish the sentence. No rebuttals are allowed during the question and answer period. Each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes to make a closing statement after the last question has been answered. At this time, candidates may make rebuttals. The length of the program will be determined by the president chairman and the moderator prior to the beginning of the evening. Last questions to be asked at 9 p.m.
Or for you do it, sir, you want to do it early?
Do it 8 p.m.
8 p.m.?
Okay, we'll make it at 8 p.m. Make it an early night for everybody. It's a school night. All right. Presentations will be made in alphabetical order. The summations at the end will be made in reverse order. No leadership may be given out at this meeting by the candidate or by the candidate supporters. At any time, if circumstance warrant, the moderator has the right to end the forum. I don't think we'll have to worry about that. Alrighty, so then we will get started with opening statements, going in alphabetical order. So we'll start with Jack Nix. Mr. Nix.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jack Nix. I'm a recent graduate of St. Joseph's College with a BA in sociology. And I am also a former South Country student. I graduated in 2012. And I'm running because I think our board really needs a younger perspective. I care deeply about this community. I'm 22 years old, and I think being a former student of South Country, I have a different perspective than the other candidates to shed onto the board. I believe that it'll be a good thing that we're going down to 7 board members, because my whole platform is about communication. And talking to community members, the number one issue that I find is that people don't feel that they're being communicated with. I want to change that. I want to talk to the community. I want to make changes based on what the community would like. I think that we're in need of a younger perspective, and I hope to be that voice. Thank you so much, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Danielle Skelly will be the next speaker.
She gave me the wrong one. Sorry, everybody.
Hi, I'm Danielle Skelly. I'm a current sitting trustee on the school board. I'm a 23-year resident of the South Country School District. I have 4 children currently enrolled in the district. I have 3 who have graduated. My husband and I have been foster parents for the last 15 years and have had numerous children pass through our home and the district. I believe I have a unique perspective on the board because I live in a multicultural household. I have a student that receives ENL services in our district. I have 2 students that receive special ed services in the district, along with students who are typically developing. My first 3 years on the board, I worked on projects such as Scholarship, which with the Health and Safety Committee, it was an attendance and student management system that we implemented that I think has helped regular students coming in and out of the cafeterias, in and out of the building. It expedites attendance across the board. We also worked on adding a robotics team, both in the middle school and in the high school. That's a wonderful program that's very well attended. We've expanded our culinary arts program and additional pathways to graduation. As a mother, a homeowner, and a taxpayer, I pride myself in considering every issue that the board has to vote on from multiple viewpoints and voting with my conscience in order to best meet the needs of all the stakeholders in the community. I very much appreciate your vote when it comes to May 16th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Allison Stines will be the next speaker.
Hi, good evening. My name is Allison Stines. I'm a Bellport High School graduate myself, born and raised in the district for 42 years. I hold stake in the well-being of the district as well. I have 3 children in the district. My oldest just graduated, he's in college. I have 2 other who are currently enrolled in the high school. I do encourage them to be active and involved, which gives me the ability to be involved in a multitude of things and have a pulse on what's going on in the district. As a parent, I feel being concerned and involved makes me a benefit to the school board because not only do I have my child's interest in mind, I have the interest of every child. Prior to me joining the board 3 years ago, the community did lose faith and trust in their school board. I ran to bring back the transparency and hopefully open the communication between the school parents and the community. During the first 2 years of my term, we thrived as a group. We were very successful. Some of the accomplishments as a group were being able to commit to smaller class sizes, the addition of a full day pre-K. We increased the number of clubs and activities offered to kids grades 4 through 12. We helped open the Family Engagement Center. We added adult ESL classes on Saturdays, and we worked on bringing a more formal look to the homecoming dance, all with it staying within a budget. During the first 2 years, the board unfortunately got a little off track, primarily due to the lack of communication and respect between board members, in a large part because some of the members had ulterior motives. They lost the focus of what the board was trying to accomplish. Because of the early success and the undesired outcomes of the board later on, it's fueled me to better myself in the district. During my 3 years, I've not only gained knowledge about how the district is run, but I've also grown as a person and apply that knowledge as the vice president currently on the board and how to handle the board. One of the things that I feel proud to say is just like in my first run, I'm a candidate with no political ties, no group affiliations, and certainly no agendas. I continue to be that person today. My running for the board is to represent the everyday person in our district who's not trying to pull strings to see changes made. I look forward to continuing to be the voice of the community, and I'll work hard to make sure that everyone's heard. I'm committed to listening to concerns, helping restore the trust in the school board, and bringing the community back together the way we belong. At the end of the day, we all want a much more successful school district that we can all be proud to raise our children in.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, we'll start. Oops. Alrighty, we'll start the questions with Ms. Skelly, and the first question of the evening is, what do you feel is the definition of a Board of Education member, and what their roles and responsibilities are, and what distinguishes you from the other candidates? Ms. Skelly?
Well, first and foremost, the Board of Education is the ultimate governing board of the school district. So we're responsible for the hiring and firing of administration and any other decisions that are made. We also are responsible for the system of checks and balances. The superintendent or the administration wants to start an initiative, and it's our job to determine whether that's a fiscally responsible decision and what's best for the course of the district. I think what distinguished me from the other candidates is that I can see the school district from various viewpoints. I do have a multicultural household. I do have children that receive different services. I don't have a political agenda. I don't have any other agenda other than what's best for the students in the school. I have children currently enrolled in the school. I have an 11th grader. I have an incoming pre-K-er, so I'm gonna be here for a while. So I believe that making our school the best that it can be, I have an invested interest in that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Stines?
Thank you. I think being fiscally responsible is a major role of the board member. I think we often forget that the board member is the voice of the community. It's not supposed to be the voice of themselves. They're elected officials into this to be the voice for the community, and those are the people that are putting them in the positions. I don't think their job is to micromanage people. I think we hire people into the positions to proceed with their job, and then our jobs are to make sure that those people we hire do exactly what they're told.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Nix?
Thank you. I believe that the role of the board is essentially being the voice of the community. We're representing the teachers, the parents, the students, and the community as a whole. Not administration, and I don't think we should be going along with whatever the superintendent or administration would like. I find that that is an issue now with our current board, and I see a lot of heads nodding in agreement. We need an independent thinker on the board. I'm prepared to do that because I plan on meeting with the community, hearing their needs, and implementing that as a trustee on this board, because that is what we're here for, the community, and that is it.
Okay, thank you. The next question, which we'll start with Ms. Stines, is if you were elected or re-elected, please explain what policy or program that you would most like to see pushed forward or initiated. Ms. Stines?
That's kind of a vague question, I'm not sure. I mean, there's so many things that we need to push forward.
Well, one in particular, one that you feel very strongly about, one that's, you know, close to your heart. What program or would you like to see moved forward or pushed forward or initiated?
Excuse me? I'm not sure I understand the question, and I don't want to answer it with the wrong thing. I'm not sure a program. I mean, we have so many programs. I'm not quite sure I understand where we're going with that.
All right, Mr. Nix?
The number one thing that I would want to push for as a program is bringing back pre-K busing, which our board just cut. That is something that I've heard from a lot of community members, that they're very upset that the busing got cut. I'm friendly with someone who graduated with me, who is now a current pre-K teacher in our district. And she says that this cutting of the buses is going to greatly affect her class size. So I plan on making sure that that is reinstated into the budget.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Skelly?
I would say the initiative that's most important to me would be expanding pathways to graduation. I think we have in our high school expanded we have a pathway to graduation in business. We also have a pathway to graduation in culinary arts. And I think continuing to expand those pathways to graduations, because we recognize that students all don't learn traditionally, and some students need the ability to have a pathway maybe because their center is art focused, or like we said, culinary arts, or more hands-on focus. So to expand those pathways to graduation, because we have increasing rigor as far as graduation requirements, so to allow students to excel in their passion, I think will help improve our graduation rate. So that's something I would like to expand upon.
Okay, thank you. We'll start the next question with Mr. Nix. As a board member, what would you do about stopping bullying in classrooms?
Well, bullying is still a major issue. I can speak from personal family experience. I was a Bellport student. I love Bellport with all my heart. And when my sister came home and said that she was being bullied severely and had to be pulled out of the school, and now she is in a private school because of this, that shouldn't happen. Not today. We let kids go too easily. There's no discipline in our schools that sticks. One of the things that was happening when I was a student was we had a bully box. I thought that was sort of an effective way to stop bullying. Bullying is definitely a part of my platform, and I would make it a top priority to stop bullying as much as possible in our schools.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Skelly?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, as a board member, what would you do to reduce or eliminate bullying in the schools?
I think bullying is a sad reality, and I think that across the board we have to have a zero tolerance for bullying. And I agree with Mr. Nix when he says that we need to increase the rigor of our discipline policy when it comes to bullying. There should be absolutely a zero tolerance to bullying. I also think increasing communication. I think getting our parents more engaged, so that way they feel comfortable speaking to our administrators and our staff if there's something encountered with their child, so it can be nipped in the bud. I think letting it expand and getting out of control, whereas if we can address it immediately by increased communication, increased communication would be helpful. So I think first having a zero tolerance for bullying and making sure that discipline sticks, and then also improving communication so parents feel more comfortable engaging with the administration in our district.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Stines?
Hi. I think we need to stop the generalization of a punishment and actually be involved directly with the people who are doing the bullying and so forth. You speak to a teacher, you speak to students, they know who bullies, and I deal with bullying on a daily basis. I have an overweight daughter. She deals with the constant bickering and what people say to her because she's overweight, and You know, again, you have to deal with the issue and the people. You take those people and you remedy them. We stop making a general, oh, don't bully, let's have a bullying assembly. You need to deal directly with people and show them that there's repercussions for their actions.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We'll start the next question with Danielle Skelly. And that question is, it's been said there needs to be more communication and transparency on the board. Do you agree with this? And if so, how would you improve it?
I think we've been making improvements with communication in our district. I think we have, our website is kept more current. We have opportunities for parents to reach out with topics that are concerning to them. I think the most important thing is parent involvement. I think the sad reality of being on the school board, which makes me the most sad, is that twice a month we have a school board meeting where parents can be heard, and our average attendance, if we're lucky, is 10 parents. So as much as the district has to reach out to parents to be engaged, the parents need to show up and be engaged when they have an opportunity to speak. So I think making sure we have open forums for parents to discuss, continuing opportunities for parents to engage with our teachers, adding trimesters was another opportunity where we can have 3 parent-teacher conferences at the lower grades. So just really increasing opportunities for parents to have an opportunity to speak with district.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Hines?
I do agree that there's a lack of communication. We experience it ourselves as a board member. There's many of times when people think because you're on the board that you're clued in as to what's going on, and we're not. As you can see, there's a divide on the board, and if somebody likes you, they tell you what they know, and if they don't like you, they don't tell you what they know, which is what happens in the community as well. People only tell who they know and who they like, and then you're left wondering what's being done and what's being said. It happens many times on the board. We come into a meeting and we're discussing something that some people have information to and some people don't. I think leadership starts from the top, and if we as a board can't communicate, how do we expect to dole that out to our community? So, you know, as far as opening it, we all need to be told the same thing and stop spreading, you know, rumors elsewhere.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Nix?
I completely agree. There is an extreme divide on our board, and it has to do with communication. Like I said, it'll be good that there are 7 trustees rather than 9, less cooks in the kitchen type of deal. The communication needs to start there, and then we need to increase that communication with the community. As a trustee, I would meet with community members whenever they saw fit. I would schedule forums to hear their concerns. I think it's important to hear what our community wants and to implement that on the board, and not to just go along with whatever the administration and superintendent would like.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll start the next question with Ms. Stines. And that question is, what would you do to reduce spending?
I mean, we've gotten to a point where for the past 3 years, we've really cut a lot out of the budget. I mean, as far as reducing spending, I think we're doing a really good job on that. Unfortunately, with the busing, with the pre-K, we didn't have an option. There really was no other option for the money. How do you find $500,000? You don't just find that. It's not a matter of squeezing it in. Everybody thinks that it's just such an easy task, and again, these aren't easy things that you're asking. It's not just something to put, the money back somewhere. You have to get the money in order to spend the money.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nix?
I have talked to many community members, and many feel that we do not need as many administrators as we currently have. That's an easy cut right there. I mean, I don't want to see people losing jobs, but we need to focus on what we're here for, the students. And as far as the busing goes, if we had maybe negotiated a new busing contract instead of renewing the current transportation contract that so many people are unhappy with, all of our buses breaking down on the sides of the roads, maybe we could have also added in pre-K busing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Skelly?
Well, I think in the 3 years that I've been on the board, we've reduced our fund balance allocation, which means we've reduced the money that we've taken for our savings in order to balance the budget. significantly over the 3 years I've been on the board. I think most of our spending is student focused. We spend a lot of money by hiring new TAs, adding staff. And with regard to the busing, we decided to extend the contract because it realized a savings to balance the budget. And the RFP we put out had a limited response, not the response we were looking for. So I always think we're looking for ways to reduce spending, but not at the cost of our students. So we want to make sure that we spend wisely and make sure that the spending we do is student focused and is actually going to impact the education of the students.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We'll start the next question with Mr. Nix. And can you explain your position on pre-K busing? And what's your reasoning behind that?
Well, I think we covered that already, but I appreciate the question. I
Well,
think.
reasoning is what they're looking for, why you feel,
Of course, and it's a very valid question. The pre-K busing, I think it's a shame. I know that it wasn't fiscally responsible to go forward with it, but I think, like I said, if we could negotiated a different busing contract, it could have been possible. And going through some of the spending, as Ms. Felice did in a couple of meetings ago, we could have found ways to make it happen. There are so many kids that are going to be affected by this. We need to be increasing access to education, not limiting it, especially in our youngest students. If our youngest students aren't getting that access to education, then I don't understand what are we trying to do here? We're here for the kids.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Skelly?
I know I've spoken on this and I will speak on it again. I voted not to include the pre-K busing, and it really just comes down to the numbers. To bus a typical student, K to 12, it costs $1,000. To bus a pre-K student, it costs $4,000. There was just not the $500,000. I agree that if we had an extra $500,000, we should bus pre-K students. But the correlation between the increase by 30 students, as of today, we're only up 30 students than we were last year. And we did a lot of other things. We added a full day component to our pre-K program. We also did unprecedented outreach to increase the numbers. So you can't correlate the increase in numbers of 30 students directly to the busing. And in speaking with a long-term TA in the pre-K program, she said you actually lost an element of that one-to-one contact with the caregiver and drop-off and pickup that she feels is critical in the education of our younger students. So she was actually against the pre-K busing, and this is a long-term TA in the pre-K program. Sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Stines?
I agree. I was going to use the same numbers as Danielle had used, and when the question came, I didn't just make the decision on my own. I too voted to remove it from the system, from our budget. Prior to doing so, I went to administrators, I went to teachers, and I asked what was the best, because I don't claim to be the educator. I don't claim to be the one who knows exactly. Their suggestion and their advice was that it was a better investment to put the money into our elementary students who could use that for some kind of program. I agree that it's much better to have a child invest the money when they're younger for the remediation, because once they're older, we lose them. You have to understand the busing wasn't a one-person decision. My fellow trustees put us in a position where we only had a certain amount of money. Nobody offered to raise the money. We had it 4.25 as far as what we were spending. Nobody offered to put up any other money, so we were pigeonholed where we were, and that's the right decision.
Okay, thank you. We'll start the next question with Ms. Skelly. What kind of experience do you have in community building, working with others, etc.?
Okay, so this is an easy one for me. Being a foster parent for 15 years, that's all I do is community building. I am involved with birth parents. I've been a case manager. I do post-adoption services for families. So community outreach is something that's very familiar to me. On top of it, I'm a co-founder of the South Country Community Information Cafe, with a co-trustee, Ms. Hunt, and that's just about getting information out to the community, rallying people that we know, inviting them, and getting information out to the community with no other agenda other than for letting people be heard. Let their noise be heard, their information be heard to us, and us to get the information out to them. So I think in my 23 years here, I've been very involved in various programs in the community, and that's definitely where my most comfort zone is getting out in the community and building relationships.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Stines?
Can you read the question again? I'm sorry.
Certainly. Well, what kind of experience do you have in community building, working with others, etc.?
Well, working with others, I'm a team leader in my profession, so I am responsible for 10 people in my office where we deal with $1 million homes and above, is trying to find the right fit for people. So as far as team leader and communication, I'm very good at that. As far as community, I'm involved in multiple volunteer positions. Anything that you need, I've done. I was involved in the Ladies Auxiliary through the Fire Department. I've done my time with the PTAs and the class moms and those leaderships. So anything that I've been asked to do, I volunteer to do any of them.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Nix?
I currently I currently am a circulation clerk and the head of outreach services at the South Country Library. I've been there for 4 years. So I talk to the community every day. Part of my responsibilities with the outreach program is visiting the elderly, the people who cannot make it to the library, and make sure that they are able to experience all the library has to offer, because people should not be kept out because they can't get out. I have worked with various people in law, Senator Chuck Schumer, Senator Kristen Gillibrand, and former Congressman Tim Bishop. Tim Bishop has also endorsed my candidacy in this race. Working with them, I talk to constituents daily, make sure that their casework is filed, hear their concerns, and make sure that something is done about it. Community outreach is what I live and breathe. Library and government.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next question will start with Allison Stines, and that's how do you feel communication between board and between the board and the school community should be handled, or better handled, between board administrators, board and teachers, board and parents, etc.
Well, I've kind of already touched on that as far as the communication. I definitely think there's a component that we're missing. I think the challenge is you can't control all the members on the board. We have retreats and meetings set up purposely to discuss how we handle with media and communication, and again, we don't all abide by those rules. So it makes it difficult as a board. Again, communication, we're definitely lacking. It's hard to get a whole community involved when we've never seen a room this big. People only show up when there's controversy or you're trying to, when there's trouble. Nobody ever comes just for a regular day. Nobody has the time, and then nobody comes out for a lot of things, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, Mr. Nix.
As far as communication goes, I think we need to do much better. As I said earlier, I talk to community members every day, letting them know about the school board election, and I want them to know about the issues, and I want to know their views on the issues. People say that they have no idea what's going on in our school board. They feel shut out, for instance. Many people had no idea that gangs, especially MS-13, was in our schools until we lost 2 students tragically. And it was all over Newsday, News 12. And now suddenly people show up to the community forum and say, how long have you known about this? They've known for a long time, but they didn't tell you. We need to talk about communication here. I plan on meeting with people as much as possible to hear their concerns and let them know what the school board and the school district as a whole is doing, and they deserve to know.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Skelly.
I think I answered it, but I'll answer it again. I think we can always do a better job with communication, and I think we have been doing a better job with communication, but again, it can always be good. But communication is also a two-way street. So as much as we can get the information out there, people have to want to receive it, and then they have to give us feedback. I'm at everything. I try my best, not maybe as well as Trustee Felice to attend everything in the community, because I don't know how she does it, but I really do try and attend as many things as I can, both in the school and just out in the community, so I really understand what the issues are, and I do my best to take that into consideration when I vote and make decisions as a school board trustee.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We'll start the next question with Mr. Nix. And how do you feel that as a school board member, how do you feel you could best improve parental involvement in the school district?
I
It's a
think
tough one.
I think it goes back to communication. I know we spent a lot of time on that tonight, but communication, meeting with parents, making sure that they know what our school board is discussing, what they're going to be voting on. I hate to bring it back again to the pre-K busing, but people didn't even know that was up for a vote until after it was decided and it was published in the advance. Then all of a sudden people were coming out in droves saying, why was pre-K busing cut? Well, we need to do a better job of communicating with the parents and let them know that these are on the table.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Skelly?
Can you read it just one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure. As a school board member, what do you think would be the best way to increase parental involvement in the school district?
I think that parental involvement, again, is a two-way street. I think we've started because we have community liaisons, NITA, and we also have a bilingual community liaison. I think they're underutilized, to be completely honest with you. I think getting them out in the community and making sure we're engaging parents is really important. I think we've increased our bilingual secretaries and our bilingual staff, and that hopefully will increase communication because we do have an increased bilingual population in our district. I also think the Family Engagement Center and Family University, now offering food, because we know when you feed people, they come, has increased attendance. I think having the ELL Saturday program and the after and before program has increased just by offering more services for parents to utilize, inevitably will increase parent engagement.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stines?
To imply that we haven't done these things, the funny thing is, if anybody would have come to the meetings, they would know that we spent hours talking about the busing. So to be surprised and to only read it about the advance, well, you know, we're here, we're discussing it. That's the point of holding these budget meetings. So to imply that we don't discuss it, you know, I don't think is fair to my fellow board members. We're here. There's nobody here from the community. As Danielle already just listed, a multitude of things that we've done. We've discussed it. We've spent hours on how to get the parental involvement. We've argued about calendars and will that bring the parental involvement because they get to see it on the schedule. We've talked about more Connect Ed calls, less Connect Ed calls. Are they too annoying? Are they too much? Not enough? We've talked about a multitude of things, and for people to say they don't know about it, well then that's why they need to come to the meetings. And it's a board meeting in public. So if you want to hear what's going on, we need the people to show.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, we'll start the next question with Ms. Skelly. And if you can make the decision on your own.
Okay.
With the budget that we have now, what programs would you want to increase or what programs would you want to decrease?
With
Obviously.
an infinite amount of money?
No, I'm just saying with the budget you have now, okay?
Okay.
I guess what we're getting at is, see the budget they proposed.
Right.
Did you feel maybe they should have spent more money on something and a little less money on something else? Or vice versa, you know?
I think that's almost an impossible question to answer because
Well, you can say you're satisfied.
I don't think I'm ever satisfied, to be completely honest with you. I always think more programs that reach our children is the most important thing. I'm very happy that we're adding TAs. That probably is the proudest thing in that whole budget for me, to be honest with you. I'm very happy that that's something that's going to touch the kids directly. I would love for there to be less unfunded mandates from Albany, so that way we could use more of our money to actually do stuff for the whole population of the kids. So unfortunately, because we're mandated to do things, we have to spend money in ways that I'm not comfortable spending it. But I know that we're being responsible to what Albany is expecting us to do and to our taxpayers.
Okay, very good. Ms. Stines?
I'm happy as what we decided as a board.
Okay, very good. Mr. Nix?
I love the increase in TAs. but I was sitting in the audience in those meetings, and the only person I heard that was fighting for TAs was Trustee Huffine. I think that we should have renegotiated the busing contract. The buses are breaking down on the sides of the roads. I don't know why we would renew with a company that the buses are breaking down. And I would have liked to seen pre-K busing added, as many others would have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we're just trying to sort through the questions. There's a lot of duplicates or very similar questions, so we're trying not to replicate. Okay, here's one. We'll start with Ms. Stines. Do you think the district could partner with the Boys and Girls Club to invite more parents in the North Bellport area in the education of their children and to improve the graduation rate among the children of our district?
Absolutely. Our report card showed that that's one of the areas that we lack in is our African American male graduation rate. So if we can partner, absolutely. Why I would never be against anything that partnering, of course, that would be a wonderful idea.
Okay, great. Mr. Nix?
I think it's a wonderful idea. I know that newly elected library trustee Cameron Trent is a great worker at our Boys and Girls Club. I would love to meet with him and discuss with him different ways that we can implement a connection between the school district and the Boys and Girls Club. And I would also love to make a connection between the library, South Country Library, and the school district. I think if we all work together, we build as a community, we thrive as a community. We have all these great aspects of our community, but none of them talk to each other, and I would love to bring them all together.
Okay, very good. And Ms. Skelly?
I do believe that we should utilize the Boys and Girls Club, but not exclusively. I think we need to do a better job of communicating across the board with our school district. I think we can't target a certain population. I think that if we're going to communicate across the board, we should communicate across the board. I think the Boys and Girls Club is a wonderful resource. I think the location of it is a natural progression to access this, but there are also churches and other community. There's a community garden. There's lots and lots of things in the North Bellport community, which encompasses our South Country community, that are underutilized, not only from the school district, but from the community at large.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty, again, I'd like to have another call for anybody. If you have questions, please submit them on a card. Again, we're getting a lot of duplicates or very similar questions, so we want to try and be as varied as possible. We do have another good one we can ask though. We'll start with Mr. Nix. What are your thoughts on the recent community forum regarding the gangs?
I think it was good that we had a community forum about that. I think it was probably a week too late. The parents kept pushing to have a forum like the Central Islip District had. We eventually put it into place. I don't think it was done correctly though. I think that the screening of the questions from the superintendent was not welcomed by the community members. And the people, it was great to see a lot of our leaders up on the stage, but they all sort of said the same thing. At one point I stopped listening to what they were saying and I just listened to the audience. I sat there by myself and I just listened to the audience and I heard scoffs, sarcastic laughs. People were mad. People were being told that they couldn't find out what the signs for gangs were. Why are we there on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, whenever it was? It just showed that we have a bad communication between our board and the community.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Skelly?
I think given that the community forum was put together in 3 days from the incident, I thought it was put together relatively well. I think there's always things that could be done better. I think gangs have been a long-term issue in the South Country community. My son graduated more years ago than I would care to admit, but we've had a gang issue. MS-13 is a relatively new issue, I will admit, and I think we acknowledge that there's more information that needs to get out into the community, but getting it out in that large forum is not the place. We're organizing community parent universities where the parents can come in and actually learn signs. They can actually learn from social workers in the district how to engage with their children about how to speak to them about gangs. So it's not a one-shot deal. The forum was just the beginning of a long-standing conversation that the district is going to have about surrounding this particular issue.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Stines?
The question was, what did I feel about the forum, correct?
What were your thoughts on it?
Sure, I think we failed in the forum. I think it was a good start. I think it was portrayed to be a community event, and it actually didn't turn out that way. I think it would have, I understand the need for a moderator. However, I felt by not allowing the actual person to ask their questions took away the feeling to it. And I actually did say this to Dr. Gianni myself, that him reading the question as opposed to a concerned parent reading the question definitely gave a different vibe. And in a monotone voice of reading, I'm scared, how do I tell my child, as opposed to the parent actually feeling it, I do think we missed the mark on that. And if there were questions that couldn't have been answered because of the investigation, because of the evidence, I think we still should have allowed the question to be asked. And then, again, somebody in the many suits up front could have said, we can't answer that. But to say, I'm not answering that, I just think was a little off. I think we did fail. However, we do have a few things lined up to hopefully compensate for those things.
Okay, thank you very much. Alrighty, next question, we'll start with Ms. Skelly. Would you support a mentoring program where teachers from K through 5 partner with students they've had who are now struggling? And if so, how would you get a program like that up and running? An easy one.
No, it's not. But I do support a mentoring program. I just think any program that we can implement that will improve the education of our students is something. I think it's a difficult thing because I think our teachers already have a lot going on. I think most of our teachers go above and beyond in their daily activities with our students, that some have very high needs. So I would agree to a mentoring program, but how to implement it, I think it would have to be collaboration with the teachers, because I would hate to burden them with anything additional than what's already going on. So maybe taking the resource of retired teachers, which I see some in the room who would be maybe willing to give back, might be another opportunity to sort of support a mentoring program. So I think there's room for something like that, but exactly how to implement it, I can't say.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stines?
What was the question?
Would you support a mentoring program where teachers from K through 5 partner with students they've had who are now struggling? And if so, how would you get something like that up and running?
I mean, how do you get it up and running? I wish I knew the answer. I currently have an 11th grader who is severely behind. This is something I talk about often at the board meetings. I have an 11th grader who's severely behind when it comes to her reading level. You know, would I support it? Absolutely. How do you do that? I'm not quite sure. I never claimed to be an educator or the best one as far as, organizing that program, but if there's something there, absolutely, I would endorse that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nix?
Thank you. Mentor programs definitely work. Like I said earlier, I'm a recent graduate of St. Joseph's College. We have a mentor program there that we partnered actually with students from the Pat Med district. And the students loved it, they thrived. The person who runs that is former Congressman Tim Bishop, and he always has great, wonderful things to say about it. I think that it's something that we could definitely partner with St. Joseph's College, which I would be happy to lead that front and make that happen. I think that's a beautiful thing to help our students.
Okay, great, thank you. Alrighty, next question will start with Ms. Stines. How would you help working students in supporting good academics and in aiding their families? That's a tough question for I guess high school students that are working. How would you help support them or help them with their academics? I know you're only board member. You don't have a magic wand.
I don't know how you help them. I mean, unfortunately, it's part of life where we have to, some of us especially now, have to work in order and also try to obtain degrees in an education. I'm not sure. I'm not one to implement the programs. I'm there to support them and be the voice of something that we want to implement or not, so I'm not sure.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Nix?
I would be happy to work with my current employer, South Country Library. We have a great tutoring program there. with a list of magnificent tutors in a varying array of subjects. This would be a part of the partnership that I sort of discussed earlier with we can make a partnership between the library and the school district, connect those tutors. I think we should really be lifting our community up, and I think that would be a wonderful thing to do.
Okay, great. Ms. Skelly?
I think that if a student has to work in order to, help their family or help support their own, that's an honorable thing. And I think utilizing the tutoring service at the South Country Library and making sure the students are aware of it is a brilliant idea. But I also think potentially offering some support in time management, because a lot of times being successful is just figuring out how to fit everything in. And I have a college student who's in her second year at university, and time management's huge. She works, she plays a sport, and she goes to school. And just having those time management skills is something she developed in high school. So maybe assisting our students with better time management, how they can manage their time, and some life skills type things might be helpful. That would be something I think about doing.
Okay, great. Alrighty. All right, start with the next question with Mr. Nix. We're getting towards the end, so again, last call for any questions if you have them. This question here is, do you think that the school board has done a good job hearing the voices of the youth in the school district?
No, I do not. That's it.
Okay, that's brief and to the point. Ms. Skelly?
Again, I think I reiterate everything. I think communication is something we can always do better. I think there are students who are heard in the schools, but I don't know if it's all the students that are heard. And maybe we need to do a better job, just like accessing certain pockets of our community, we need to do a better job of accessing certain pockets of our school district. So I think we hired a Spanish-speaking social worker to access a certain population of our students, and I think just better outreach. I think increasing our clubs and after-school activities helps that, because that engages students that maybe not engage in some of the typical clubs, and that's a way to access those students. So I don't think we do a great job, but I think we're always looking for ways to expand that.
Okay, great. Ms. Stines?
We definitely don't do the best job possible, but we do have our student officer who does come in and lets us know what's going on from the student aspect. I think we should also look to invite students here more for recognition, and that gives us an opportunity to hear of things that are going on. When they're here, you learn things much better when we hear directly from the students as opposed to directly from the super or administrators.
Okay, thank you. We'll start the next question with Ms. Skelly. There's a lot of conversation regarding where we need to put our strongest focus, either early literacy, pre-K through second grade, or the remedial programs that are offered in the upper grades. What is your opinion on the topic?
I think we have to put them both places. To be completely honest with you, I think we can't focus on one or the other. I think we have to look at the district as a whole. Because we have to look at where our students are going, where they are now. So by putting the TAs in the classrooms, we'll increase the opportunity for not only have TAs during their literacy block, but also during their mathematics block. So it'll be more adults in the classroom. So if we have students that need remedial work or students that need enrichment, we'll have an opportunity to give that. But I think to not focus on our credit recovery and some of our pathways to graduation and other avenues in the high school would be remiss. You can't focus on one or the other. We have to look at the district as a whole.
Okay, great, thank you. Ms. Stines?
Repeat the question, please.
There's a lot of conversation regarding where we need to put our strongest focus, either in early literacy, pre-K through second grade, or the remedial programs that are offered in the upper grades. What is your opinion on the topic?
I do agree with Danielle. I think they're all equally important. However, for me, I think the pre-K through the second is an important stage, because once we lose them past second, third grade, it's very difficult to catch them back up. Again, I speak from that firsthand, and so I think, I'm not quite sure the reason, and again, this is something I've brought up multiple times. For some reason, we have a hard time classifying our kids, or not allowing them, or telling them that they don't qualify for services, when they clearly do. And I think we do a poor job classifying them at that younger age when they need it the most, because it is difficult once they've passed that elementary to catch them back up.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Nix?
Thank you. I would love to implement more reading workshops, more writing workshops. Remediation, yes, it's good, but we've been doing remediation since before I was a student. I don't think it's really good for the kid that's receiving it, that they feel singled out. There's better ways to go about it, I think. Reading workshops, writing workshops, we need to be investing in that. Especially, like Allison said, with our pre-K to second grade students. They're like little sponges at that time. And I really believe that if we focused mostly on those students, that we honestly wouldn't need much more remediation services to begin with.
Okay, thank you. All right, next question. I hope this doesn't take away from your closing statements. But what qualities do you have as an individual and that you demonstrate that would help our students become more productive and caring adults? Okay, and we'll start that with Ms. Stines.
My qualifications, and I think it's important, I'm not a business person, I'm not an educator, I am your everyday community member. I've taken jabs from people, and yet I still stand here to do the right thing, not for anybody else but the district and the children. I know I'm the right person for the job.
Okay, you still get to wrap up. All right, Mr. Nix?
I think being a former student, and being a former student from not that long ago, I only graduated in 2012. I know the teachers, I have good relationships with them, like Mr. Budris back there, who has endorsed me, and I'm very thankful for that. I think having that younger perspective gives me the advantage to speak to our students. I'm 22 years old, so I'm a little older than the kids in high school, but I can understand them. I can have a conversation with them. I can see what issues they see in the school, so I can implement what they want as a trustee. I think that's important. I think that the current board lacks that younger voice. My generation is not represented on the board. I think that that's a lack on the board. We need to be focusing on what the younger people think.
Alrighty. Ms. Skelly?
Can you just repeat it one more time?
Sure. What qualities do you have as an individual and that you demonstrate that would help our students become more productive and caring adults?
I guess similar to Allison, I'm a mom, I'm a community member. My first and foremost reason for running for the board was because my kids were in the school and I wanted to make sure that I had a voice. I think what makes me unique is that I have a unique household that's multicultural with lots of different needs and lots of different ages. So it gives me an ability to look at it from lots of different ways. A lot of the issues I bring up to the board, I bring up to the schools, is because it's something that came home and impacted my kid. And I know if it's impacting my student, it's impacting other students. And that's always what's most important to me. So I think recognizing the diversity in our district and playing for the strengths of our district will help our students move forward.
Okay, very good. We still have a couple of decent questions to ask, so we'll continue to move forward for another 10 minutes. Maybe get another 2 or 3 questions in. We started with you, Ms. Stines, right? Last round?
Last one was me, yes.
Okay, so this one will start with Mr. Nix.
Okay.
Just so you know, this is a hardball question, so again, I'll be slow. All right. The district has been cited by the Department of Education for a disproportionate suspension rate of black and brown students. As a board member, how would you combat this issue?
I think this is that's awful to hear, honestly. We need to be focusing on coming together as a community. We need to hear what these students from all demographics, from all races, from all ethnicities, what they feel, how they're not being heard in our district. And maybe the behavioral issues would go down. I think that's a sign that students are being targeted. I hate to hear that. I hate to even say that. We shouldn't be worrying about that in 2017, but I'm afraid we are. We need to come together as a community, like I said, and hopefully we can get off of that list.
All righty, Ms. Skelly?
that's a statistic that bothers me, to be completely honest with you. I think because the reality is our suspension rate across the board is down. And the fact that we're suspending one group of students more than the other, I hope that our progressive discipline allows us to suspend students based on the merit of the action that they did and not based on the color of their skin. So I recognize that we've been cited, but I also recognize that we need to suspend students when suspension is warranted. And if we want to make a real assessment, we need to look at each case on a case-by-case basis and determine if that's a real statistic or just based on the numbers because of the population of students that is in our district.
Okay, Ms. Stines?
What was the question?
Okay, it states here, the district has been cited by the Department of Education for a disproportionate suspension rate of Black and Hispanic students. As a board member, how would you combat this issue?
Okay, that's what I thought it was. I just want, again, as Danielle said, I do recognize that we were cited. I think it's an unfair citing because if you have to take in mind our population. Half of our population is minority and Hispanic. So what are we comparing it to when you're looking at it? I mean, of 4,300 students, over 2,000 of them are Hispanic and African American. So I don't feel that it's a justifiable report.
Okay. Let's- Hold on 1 second, I just want to sort through some of the questions. Just trying to avoid duplicates. Well, here's one just to keep us going while we, we'll start with, we start with Ms. Skelly. Alrighty, what is your opinion about the school board being reduced from 9 members to 7 members? Good, bad, indifferent?
They already said that. Yeah, they already answered that twice.
I think we commented on it, but I don't know if you answered the specific question. I'll be more than happy to answer it. I wish it wasn't this year, because I'm running, it makes the race much more difficult, I'll be honest with you. But I think ultimately it's probably a good thing. For a district of our size, we have a rather large board, and I think similar to what Mr. Nix said, too many cooks in the kitchen. So I think it'll give us an opportunity to maybe streamline the process a little bit, eliminate some of the, I guess, drama or infighting that maybe ensues because we're such a large board. But it does also reduce the opportunity for all stakeholders to be heard. So I think it's a plus and a minus, but I don't necessarily believe it's a terrible thing.
Alrighty, Ms. Stines?
Perfectly honest, I'm in favor of reducing it. Obviously, my year, I wish it wasn't because you went from 3 seats to 1. So that's the only reason that I would have not been in favor.
Alright, and Mr. Nix?
I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it will help increase our communication as a board, which then helps increase communication from the board to the community.
Okay, thank you. Alright, Neil, we couldn't get through meet the candidates without this question. What is your opinion on the Common Core? And we'll start with Ms. Stines.
I think the rollout of the program was awful. I think the district did a poor job at communication, which, again, in this time and day of social media, parents were scared and aren't fully informed, and so many of us opted out. I think the district has to do a better job. I think that the communication, again, is a huge factor that we're lacking. I'm not opposed to testing or challenging children to think critically. However, the materials aren't age appropriate. And again, this goes back to when you have a child who struggles and is in 11th grade, she shouldn't be given the same exact test as her peers who are excelling. And so, we make it really difficult. And then on top of that score, now we're holding teachers accountable for those grades when the reading level is beyond their level to begin with, even if they were on par. So when you struggle and the test isn't appropriate to begin with, we're setting them up to fail.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nix?
I am completely against Common Core, and I am proud to say that I am honored to say that I have been endorsed by Long Island Opt-Out because they feel that I understand what the parents need. I believe that the standardized tests are more of a nuisance than a good thing. They should not be tied to teachers. They're designed as sort of a one-size-fits-all solution when we know that each student learns differently. And they're geared to help other students rather than not other students. So I'm very happy to be endorsed by the opt-out movement of Long Island, and I hope to implement practices as a trustee that would be in their favor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Skelly?
Common Core is a slippery slope, I think, because having a child's gone through so many years of education, we always have a new way to educate our kids, right? Over the 20 years that I've had kids in a public education setting, there's always a new, somebody built a better mousetrap, I guess you could say. And I feel like Common Core is the result of somebody building a better mousetrap and then selling it to us. Common Core is more than testing. I think the curriculum of Common Core and the critical thinking is really wonderful. I think the rollout was really poor, and I think the fact that there was no pre-ability for our teachers to have some free thinking. It reduces the freedom in the classroom, and I think we employ some really wonderful teachers that do an incredible job educating our kids. And unfortunately, because Common Core is linked to testing, it really limits their ability to teach in a free way. But I do think the ability to have more critical thinking and to tie all the subjects together is a positive from Common Core.
Okay, very good. We'll do one last question, and then we'll go to closing statements. And we'll start this one, Mr. Nix. What is your opinion of the tax cap? Good, bad?
I believe that it's a good thing. I'm glad that we didn't go over this time. The budget is under the tax cap, which is a good thing. It won't be affecting our constituents too much, so I think it's a good thing.
Ms. Skelly?
I think the tax cap is good for the taxpayers. It's not so great for the school district. To limit our ability, where almost 50% of our funding comes from the taxpayers, and to limit our ability to have any flexibility is sort of unfair. I don't think there should be free spending by school districts. I think that that's not the way to go, but I think they say it's a 2% tax cap. In reality, it's significantly less than 2%. So it's a good thing, but I think maybe it limits us sometimes too much to implement programs and services.
Okay. Ms. Stines?
I think it's a good and a bad thing as well. I think it worked for when you're the taxpayer. I think as the district, sometimes it does wrong because it is a small margin, and I think we don't have the people who come out and vote because they think, well, it doesn't add up, and I think we miss population of people that we should have come out that should be voting.
Okay, very good. Now it's time for the closing statements, and we'll do that in the reverse order of the opening statements. So that would mean you're up, Ms. Stines.
You had
You
said,
have 2 minutes.
I'm sorry, 2 questions. You had said that we can rebut a few things. When does that happen? And then you, in the definitions you sent, it said the ending was 3 minutes as well. So I don't know, is that allowable, or I just wanted to go back on one subject?
No, it's 2 minutes. I don't know where you got 3 minutes. It's
3 minutes for the opening, 2
It's
minutes.
3 minutes for
Okay.
opening. It's the standard.
And there is no rebuttal.
And there's no rebuttals.
Okay,
And you
no
can
problem.
work it into your
Nah,
2 minutes if
no
you
worries.
want.
I'll
That's,
do
you
this
know.
as quick as possible. I wrote it down, I'll read it, and hopefully it's less than 2 minutes. Okay, a school board has a symbolic role. The behavior it shows in the meeting room, whether healthy or dysfunctional, has a heavy influence on the spirit that characterizes a community's impression of its school system. During this election period, there have been things said in regards to me and my record as a trustee and what should have been done. Holding the title as a trustee is not an easy position, even when experienced, and will often require making the unpopular decision. I'm here today as an experienced candidate who's been on the board for 3 years. For an inexperienced candidate to attack me and my record while on the board is not only wrong, but incorrect and insulting to me and my fellow board members. Keep in mind, those board members that you insult are the same board members you hope to work with one day and command their respect. In addition to the personal attacks for board decisions, my opponent has made it known that there's a need for a younger voice. What he may not realize is that the younger voice that he speaks about is actually being controlled by the older guard, who puts those policies in place that he thinks he can so easily change on his own. I've heard the word transparent often during this campaign. However, some have not been transparent themselves throughout my time on the board. This is all I've been. There have been spreading of falsities on social media and overall unethical political approaches. Not to mention a meet the candidate without inviting all the candidates. If this is the transparency and the fairness that we're looking for, then I have a different definition of fair and transparent. Over the past 3 years, I've stood up for what we worked hard to put in place, and I've taken shots from those who have either not agreed or didn't get their desired results. I'm known to hold others accountable for their actions, whether unpopular or not, and because it's not about the district, it's about the district, not the individual. Our task as a board is not to have decisions be based off popularity or agendas. I've always stayed true to my views, and I believe that those outcomes should be based on the greater good of the district rather than my own personal gain. The best way to resolve an issue is to hear both sides. I've utilized that in every decision as a board trustee. Respect, decency, and honesty will always be my approach. Letters of recommendations and political backing of past professors who happen to be politicians is nice to have, but it doesn't automatically lead to success. What does lead to success is success from the backing of the community and the endorsements of the local community members who actually attend the meetings.
2 minutes, you have to be fair.
And I am finishing. What I've been a part of for the past 3 years has been positive. That's good.
Ms. Skelly?
Social blast about it.
So I'm looking for a re-election for my 3-year trustee because of the things that I've started in the first 3 years that I was on the board, and I'd like to see come to culmination, or at least continue. Things like increasing BOCEs from 12th graders only to 11th graders, because we recognize that some students learn differently and need alternatives to graduation and skill building. Implementing the robotics program, expanding the culinary arts program. I'm so proud to say that in 2 of the 3 years that I was on the board, the culinary arts program has had the ability to go to Orlando and compete nationally against schools from all over the country, which I think is phenomenal. We've done things like put Wi-Fi in all of our buildings. Our K to 6 grades have, our 3 to 8 students have access to Chromebooks. That we have smart boards in the high school. We have smart tables in the K to 3 buildings. I think access to this technology and teaching the students how to use them is key to our success. So please, I'm looking for a re-election because these are things and initiatives that I've started, I've been involved in, and I want to see grow and expand.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Nix.
Hello. I couldn't imagine who she'd be talking about. Yeah, I want a younger perspective on this board. And I have worked with many politicians, and one thing that I know is you only go negative when you're desperate. That was pretty desperate, I think. When they go low, we go high, and that's what I'm about to do.
Go right ahead.
We need a younger perspective on this board.
That's controlled by the older.
Allison, I'm
I'm sorry, you're right. I apologize. I'm sorry.
We need a younger perspective on this board. The board does not communicate with the community. I plan on doing that. I am endorsed by former Congressman Tim Bishop because he is a leader in education and he believes in me. I'm also endorsed by former Board of Education President and retired teacher Barbara Schatzman, who's in the audience right here. She was my 3rd grade teacher. I am endorsed by Andrew Budres and many other teachers in this district, Tony Huffline, and many other trustees on this current board. So I'm not attacking them, I'm attacking you, who I won't be working with when I am a trustee on this board, because I plan on knocking you right out. I am going to bring this younger perspective to the board. I will meet with the community, I will bring communication back, and that's all I have to say on that front. Thank you so much.
All right, in closing, we'd like to thank all the candidates for coming this evening, giving us their views. Being a school board member is an admirable pursuit. It's a lot of hard work, no compensation.
Is there any reason all the questions?
So we just want,
particularly the questions about minority representation among staff in the school district?
excuse me?
they want to address why we
So
have.
is there any particular reason why all the questions weren't read, including those questions regarding minority representation among the administrative and professional staff in this school district? We have such a diverse student body,
I do believe.
and that's not represented in our administrative and our professional staff. That question was submitted multiple times and was not read.
We did review the question, and we did believe the questions that were leading to a point that we tried to address it in a very non-partisan way. Some of the
It's not a
questions,
partisan question. It's a very important question.
and I believe that we answered how we would deal with increasing the attention for those students. Is that,
That question never came up.
did you want to answer that question?
We can ask it right now.
John, they did answer, they did ask it.
No, they did not. No, they did not.
Yes, 2 times.
What specific?
If I could just make one
Sure.
announcement, please. If I could have the students who came here this evening to get extra credit for their assignment because they do need to get back, we have AP exams this week, if they could just come and sign out when they're ready, I have a sign up sheet here.
What do you want to do about this question?
This is where lack of transparency comes. You come to a meeting, and I've been here before and I've spoken. You're not allowed to ask a question. You're not allowed, you don't get an answer. You don't get an answer afterwards.
It's just like the community meeting.
It's like you
Exactly like
can't
that.
speak
Not-
your
you're-
voice,
you're-
and you don't get an answer.
But you don't blame us. We didn't, neither Mr. Nix, Skelly, or myself
So
helped.
then-
Allison,
Hold on.
excuse me, I'm sorry, we have moderators for a reason.
Well,
If
they're
the
not doing what
audience-
they're supposed to
I'm
do.
sorry, if the audience could just be quiet
Why
for a
don't you answer the
moment,
question
and
now?
our
3 years, we're
our
all waiting.
candidates could be quiet for just a moment, we'll try and straighten some of this out.
This is the question. I remember seeing it.
All right, hold on. All right. We have had our closing statements. If the 3 candidates are willing to answer one last question, we'll put it out there.
Definitely.
Do you have any objections? Or-
No, please.
I'll answer the question, that's fine.
All right, I believe this is the question that was asked. Again, we had 2 questions. Being a district composed of a large population of minorities, as a board member, what have you done or what will you do to ensure professionals who look like the community are recruited and given opportunities of tenure, thus instilling a sense of longevity? Students get to observe the duration of their schooling. That would be the question. I guess
I'll start.
We'll
If
start
you
with
wanna-
Ms. Skelly, we'll go to-
Starting.
Ms. Stines, and then we'll end with Mr. Nix. Ms. Kelly?
So first and foremost, during my tenure on the board, there's a 44%
Yeah.
hiring rate of minorities in the administrative office and an 18% rate of hiring of minorities in FTE positions. Unfortunately, in my perfect world, I would love to have it represent identically the students that we service. Unfortunately, teachers don't leave that often. If you look at how many retirees we're having this year, we're not replacing staff at a rate as quickly as our demographic is changing. I know as a board member, in my speaking with the administration and their interviewing practices, I want us to better represent the students that we are servicing. So I want them to make sure that they consider all candidates equally and put special attention to candidates that are bilingual, because that's an underserved population, to minorities, so that when our students go to school, the adults that they encounter better represent the faces that are in the classroom. So that's a priority for me. It's a priority I've expressed at board meetings, but unfortunately, we can't just cut half of our teachers and say, sorry, you're fired because you're not brown. So as teachers retire and we're looking to replace them, I know as a district, or at least as myself as a trustee on the board, that's a priority that I've expressed to our administration in their hiring practices.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Stines?
Can you just read, you could sum the question up, you don't have to read it word for word, I just wanted to catch.
Yeah, I'll go through the whole thing. Being a district composed of a large population of minorities, as a board member, what have you done or what will you do to ensure professionals who look like the community are recruited and given opportunities for tenure, thus instilling a sense of longevity in the eyes of the students?
If we could have 50 Mr. Conquests, I would hire every single one if I was allowed. That is somebody who made a difference in the community, he was there for the kids, he was an administrator, took his job seriously, and yet he was relatable to the kids. That's what I grew up with, and that's what I was hoping we could encourage. As Danielle already stated the figures, we have 44% of minorities. I don't know if I can even go there, but I think part of the issue is the way that we hire. I think we should do a better job of hiring and the process, which again, we've discussed this multiple times, the hiring process needs to be perfected. But I do think that, again, I'm not the one who makes the decision on who puts the people up there. If they're there and they're talented and they do their job, what better way? And I'm a huge supporter of what Mr. Conquest was and what he did for our district, and there's nobody better than that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Nix, we'll close with you.
I would love to see more people in minorities be hired as teachers and administrators, especially. I think that students are more prone to go up to people who look like them and maybe tell them about the dark thoughts they might be having. And I think that that could be a way to help the students that are troubled. If we hire more people that are in minorities, it'll help our district come together as a whole, which we really need to do right now in the wake of the tragedies that just ensued last month.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, that concludes the evening. Thank you everybody for coming.